What's going on, guys? This is Mike with Chit Chat Gaming, and if you're like me and you grew up in the late 80s, the 90s, you had a 90s childhood, then you, my friend, had a great childhood. But if you're not like me, you probably hear a lot about it, right? That's correct, because just look around. Retro gaming is huge right now. I mean, everything that was back in the 90s, from all the old gaming consoles and everything, costs more now than what it does for anything else that's just coming out new. I know that's normal for antiques and stuff to cost more, but retro gaming is huge. I mean, look at me. I just got a Game Boy Color the other day. I'm in the process of getting a PSP. So, I mean, PSP is obviously not a 90s console or anything like that, but it's an older console. So what I'm saying is that things from back then are definitely hot right now. And speaking of hot right now, I want to come on here really quick, not do a review because there's reviews everywhere of Sonic Mania. I always want to do a quick little, my thoughts and such on this game, whether or not I think that it's worth picking up. As a huge Sega fan, for myself growing up, like I mentioned, gaming was huge back in the 90s, and luckily for me, I was there for the NES, or Super Nintendo, and the Sega, and so forth. So for me, our first system was the NES. Of course, that's kind of where I got my feet wet. Then we got the SNES with the Mario World at launch, which is kind of like what basically was my childhood. But I didn't realize how much so until I got my hand, or until we got our hands, that's my family anyways, on the Sega Genesis. Now I remember correctly, I believe it might have launched with either Golden Axe or Ultra Beast or something. I can't remember which one it was, but we got the console that came bundled with Sonic the Hedgehog when it first debuted. Now for me, I was a huge SNES fan. Of course, like I mentioned, Mario was like my childhood as far as gaming goes, but Sonic the Hedgehog was definitely the Mario on the Genesis, or for Sega. That was like their mascot. So for me, I really adapted quickly to the Sega Genesis. I like the whole ABC concept. Also, games like Streets of Rage, games like, like I mentioned, Ultra Beast and whatnot, and Road Rash, and all those games. Mortal Kombat had blood on the Genesis. So for me, the Genesis was definitely a game breaker and a game changer for me as far as gaming goes. But again, we're talking about Sonic the Hedgehog, and Sonic the Hedgehog was definitely a great title and definitely a part of my childhood that I'll never forget. Whether you're talking about Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Sonic 3, Sonic Spinball, Sonic and Knuckles, whatever it is. I think there was Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine or something like that. I can't remember what it was exactly called. But once you got those games, man, I mean, if you played those games, you're definitely going to know for sure that they're all kind of similar, all the Sonic games, but they were so much fun. Definitely great 2D platformers. And then, of course, you gone on and you got the Sonic CD for the Sega CD, which is a great console as well, too. A very underrated console, that is. So you got Sonic CD, you got Sonic Adventure, I think there was Sonic 3D Blast for the Genesis 2, if I remember correctly. I can't remember off the top of my head. Then you got into the more modern, you got into some of the Xbox games that came out, as well as the GameCube games as well. So you got into those games as well too. They were fun, but definitely not as great as what the original 2D platformer Sonic games were. Now, as far as Sonic Mania goes, I knew when I first saw this launch trailer, I was excited. I was more excited for this than I was for Sonic Forces, which is still coming out this year. I don't even want that game, to be honest with you. I mean, it looks cool, don't get me wrong, it might be awesome, but I don't want a modern day Sonic the Hedgehog. I want a 2D platformer Sonic the Hedgehog, because it seems like that's where they do things right. Because I'm telling you, Sonic Mania is how they definitely did things right. Sonic Mania is awesome, it's incredible, it's a lot of fun. I've seen some reviewers, basically saying this game is like one of the best Sonics ever. I have to say so myself. I wish to make a full launch game of this actual title. It's only $19.99 in the eShop for Nintendo Switch. Of course, it's on Xbox One, PS4, and PC. Actually, I think it got delayed for PC until the end of this month, on August 29th. But regardless though, for $19.99, I'm letting you guys know that you must pick up this game. If you're a fan of Sonic the Hedgehog and 2D platformers. Now, even though you might not be my age, you may not go back, for me this is nostalgic. This is like a big nostalgic thing. Regardless, even if I wasn't a huge Sonic the Hedgehog fan, I'd probably still pick this up just for nostalgia in general. But if you are a big Sonic the Hedgehog fan, Even if you're not a Sonic the Hedgehog fan, you still must play this game, especially if you own a Switch. The fact that you can take this thing on the go, and not only that, it's definitely a great game that fits the Switch mold. I mean, yes, I have an Xbox One, PS4, PC as well. I could have got it for any of those consoles, but I chose to do it for the Switch, mainly because of the fact that with the hybrid console, I'm able to take this thing on the go as well too. But not only that, it just fits the Switch perfectly. But again though, Sonic Mania is a fun game. Even from the very first stage of the Green Hill Zone, it's like all over. It's like my childhood all over again. It's like playing Sonic the Hedgehog all over again on my Sega Genesis. When I first booted it up and I heard the Sega on my screen, I was just like, it took me back. It took me back to Saturday nights, eating pizza, watching Snick, playing with wrestling figures, waiting for WCW Saturday Night to come on, and playing Sonic the Hedgehog, Road Rash, Streets of Rage with my family, having a great time. And then once I actually got into the game, you see the save state and everything. It's just like, all right, this is definitely what I remember from Sonic the Hedgehog. And graphically and everything, this game looks just like it did back then. Again, this is definitely a great 2D platformer. I wouldn't recommend it for everybody. The reason why I say that is because there's people out there who don't like 2D platformers. They don't like old games. They like all the new modern style games that are out now. If you don't like that, then I wouldn't recommend picking this up for you. But if you are a huge gaming fan, and if you're a huge fan of Sonic the Hedgehog, or a huge fan of all the old retro consoles like I am, you grew up with that, then this game will hit home with you. Regardless though, for only $19.99, I definitely recommend picking this up. It's a lot of fun. It's a great platformer. There's lots to do. And like I mentioned though, it just looks so fantastic and it looks just like it did back in the day. Now that's really all I have here today. Again, I didn't want to do a review because there's so many of them out there. I can sit here all day long and talk about this game. I just want to give you guys my personal opinion on my thoughts on whether or not you should pick this up or not. And this is coming from somebody, like I said, who grew up in the late 80s and the 90s and who first had a Sega Genesis and an SNES and all that at launch and grew up with Sonic the Hedgehog. So definitely take my word for it. If you don't from anybody else, definitely listen to me. I know what I'm talking about, and again, I'm sure you can ask anybody out there that's a Sonic the Hedgehog fan or that grew up in the 90s as well too, that this game is almost similar to what it was back in the day. Again though, this has been Mike with Chit Chat Gaming, and as always, happy gaming.